We'll give you a second to get settled.
Thank you.
This is the budget hearing for the farmers market. We have Executive Director Kennard, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vercher, for the opportunity to present the budget for the Nashville Farmers Market to each of you today. I'd also like to introduce Charles Kaiser to my left. He is our facilities coordinator and also oversees our capital projects. And I want to recognize members in the audience that are our staff and our board members and thank them for their tireless work that they do every day to ensure that the Nashville Farmers Market is a home to more than 200 merchants in our community where they start their business, grow their business, and help create economic opportunities. And I want to thank each of you. I know that the past couple of weeks take a toll, and I appreciate your commitment and your ongoing support to the Nashville Farmers Market. It's because of your continued support and investment in our facility, in our infrastructure, our programs, and our outreach that we're able to continue to support our community and serve our community to the best of our ability. I'm going to try to keep my comments brief so that you guys can stay on schedule. So I'm going to hit a couple highlights of some work that we've done over the past year to evaluate how the community feels about the services and the programs of the Nashville Farmers Market. Over the last 18 months, we conducted a lot of survey work. We also worked with the administration in their community survey. And we worked with a Friends of the Nashville Farmers Market group to be able to gather additional feedback. Some of the things that we learned was that 78% of the respondents to our survey live within 20 miles of the market. 21% of them report that they've been shopping at the market for 10 or more years, and nearly 60% report that they've begun shopping at the market in the last 5 years. 76% report that they shop at the market at least once a month, with 56% of them making multiple trips to the market throughout the month. On average, they're spending about $30 per market trip, and 62% of our merchants reported that they've seen an increase in their revenue year over year. We consider that fantastic news. Not only are more people visiting the market, but they're doing so on a consistent basis, and it's showing in the economic opportunities for our merchant community. And every dollar spent is generating twice as much for our local economy. We also learned that 8% of the respondents report that they or a family member qualify for SNAP, which is known as our food stamp program. They use that program to meet the needs of their family's food budget. Nearly 6% of them report that they have participated in our Fresh Savings SNAP incentive program. And that program, as we've shared with you in the past, matches dollar for dollar up to $20 on all fresh fruits and vegetable purchases at the market from our farmers and soon the international market. We know that we've got some work to do in that area to get more people aware of the opportunity to participate in that program. An overwhelming 67% of the respondents report that their #1 reason for visiting the Nashville Farmers Market is to purchase fresh local food, and 40% of the respondents reported eating more servings of fresh produce when shopping at the Nashville Farmers Market. We felt like Dr. Paul in the health department would appreciate that statistic. We also learned that 65% of the respondents have asked the market to offer more consistent dinner service on Friday and Saturday, and 50% would like to see more community programming, such as workshops on canning, preserving, and nutrition. You know, that's a lot of information that I just peppered you with. We'll be sending some key takeaways from that survey work in a follow-up to Metro Council over the course of the next few weeks. But we're sharing this information with you today because we want you to understand that we value the community feedback that we're receiving. And we're working very hard to take that feedback and put it into our efforts to move the market forward. And the board and the staff have been working to update our strategic plan, which we've now completed. The plan is called Grow Together. And we have some specific strategies that I'd like to share with you today in regards to the Grow Together plan. The first is that we'd like to invest in the facility infrastructure and improve our fiscal and environmental sustainability. Secondly, increase small business incubation and merchant support services. Third, expand programs and services to increase access to fresh, healthy food and collaborate to foster a strong community-based food system. And lastly, implement a robust community engagement and marketing plan that will raise awareness and increase revenue. The plan Grow Together will guide our work to remain a nationally recognized, vibrant farmers market for many, many years to come. Over the past year, we have completed a regional food system assessment, and we have launched a community food system network, which is a collaborative effort with many different nonprofits, farmers market managers, farmers, food entrepreneurs throughout the city to develop a recommendation to bring back to community-based organizations, other nonprofits, and government leaders on how we can increase local food production, work on land preservation, and increase access and equity when it comes to healthy food. We've implemented the new rate plan that we've spoken about for the past 18 months. That new rate plan has allowed us to renew 11 leases in the market house over the past 5 months. And as they step into that plan, that's where you'll begin to see the significant revenue growth in our revenue model over the course of the next 3 years. Charles, has completed an extensive assessment of the facility, including our HVAC system, and we've made initial investments to improve the air quality, heating, and cooling of the market house facility. The renovations and improvements to the market restrooms, patios, greenhouses, and a few other areas have improved the customer experience and also enabled us to increase our revenue. Our recruitment and retention efforts are at an all-time high. We've had over 160 merchant applications since February 16th. Of those, over 100 of them are returning merchants, and the balance are new merchants that are seeking to establish their business at the Nashville Farmers Market. We've continued to see growth in our Grow Local Kitchen incubation program. And we've also completed the discussions with Connexion Americas to launch a new farmers market, a new neighborhood market at the park that'll be located next to their property in just a few short weeks. We've continued our community education programs in partnership with the Nashville Community Education Commission, Team Lightning, and a new nonprofit organization called Cooking Up that aims to teach people how to eat healthy and reduce their food waste. We've continued our weekly communications with our merchants. We've added 6 merchant advisory committee meetings to our schedule of merchant communications over the past year. And then we've also improved and streamlined our processes for receiving applications, approving applications, and managing merchant participation and fees at the market. We've also extended our hours. So you heard in the survey report that folks wanted to dine and enjoy the market later on a more consistent basis. We've been hosting a night market series for 7 years. We've now decided, effective the first week of April, that on Friday and Saturday nights, the market house is open until 8 p.m. In the past, the concepts would all close around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And during the week, they're staying open until 6 p.m., Sunday through Thursday. It's a gradual change in customer traffic at the market, but we're seeing some positive signs that will bring in a new customer base and increase opportunities for those market house restaurants. Very proud to say that we have eliminated styrofoam at the Nashville Farmers Market. It's been a long time coming, but we have finally crossed over that and eliminated it. All of our market house restaurants and concepts are now using paper goods or recyclable materials. And we've recently introduced composting services through the contract with Public Works and the compost company for our market house and our garden center tenants. We'll be rolling out a more robust community recycling and composting program over the course of the next few months. We're set to begin the next phase of our major renovations, which we've talked about at length. Those are in the final stages of procurement with solidifying the vendor for the build-out of the new grand entrance is what it's called in the plan. We're basically renovating our loading dock to become an entrance that will face the Tennessee State Museum. And our current waste center will be relocated on our premises, and we'll design that space for retail or restaurant space, giving us another opportunity to increase tenant space and revenue for the market. Those renovation plans also call for an inclusion of public art, and we've been working with the Metro Arts Commission for a call for artists for that particular part of the project, and they'll be coordinating that work with the contract that's awarded. We do plan to conclude those renovations in FY19. And we will be seeking additional capital funding to proceed with the proposed enclosure of the farm sheds and the replacement of the market house HVAC. This will help us increase our long-term revenue opportunities and improve our facility operations. We essentially want to winterize the farm sheds so that more of our merchants that have an opportunity to retail year-round can do so in a manner that is comfortable for them and for the customer. It's very difficult to retail in the farm sheds when it's snowing, raining sideways, or the wind is blowing all of your product or setup materials over. So we feel strongly that that enclosure project will really turn the corner for the farm sheds and its merchants. We do fully understand the constraints of the Metro budget this year, which is why we're not asking you for any new funding. We're not asking you for a subsidy either. We have taken a very careful look at our budget, and we are doing everything that we can with our line items to reduce our expenses at every turn. We are also looking at our staffing model and determining how we fill any vacant positions that we have so that, again, we can reserve as much of our operating funds as possible. We are not turning away revenue opportunities. Revenue opportunities that fit into the model of the Nashville Farmers Market are welcome and evaluated and consistently brought into the market. We are at 100% occupancy in the market house, and the farm shed rate for peak season is at 90% on Saturdays. We're continuing to work back through the other weekdays to increase that participation, and we're continuing to see growth in that area. Okay, we understand that our plans are ambitious. We've thrown a lot at you, and we get it. We know that it can be overwhelming at times. We want to be a good steward. We want to communicate with you as often as necessary and answer any questions that you may have. But we do need your support. We need your long-term commitment to ensure that the future of the Nashville Farmers Market is bright, and that our merchant community can rely on us being a place where they can continue to grow. We believe that we've demonstrated resilience. We have had some very challenging years over the past few years with construction in the corridor, with parking constraints, and we have overcome those challenges, and so has the community. So have our merchants. Our merchants continue to increase, and our customer traffic continues to increase. So that is a very good sign that this community believes in this program and wants to see it succeed and continue to serve them. We do anticipate a gradual increase in visitorship as the Tennessee State Museum opens. They are slating to open in the fall, and we are working with them hand in hand on how we can collaborate with programming and manage the increased traffic to the area. And at that, I would like to wrap up my comments and see if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms.
for us.
Kennard. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. Good. But here's the question I want to ask of you, because, again, I get a little confused sometime about when we gave, when a sale took place between Tennessee and Nashville, and we utilized all that gain, and we basically put it into, I guess, a special account to where you wouldn't have to come to the council and ask for a subsidy because it was already kind of built in for you. The $1.3 million in charges, commission, and fees, I'm assuming that's rent, that's various, areas of revenue, but expenses is $1.9 million, so it's still a little over $600,000 difference. Are we, in order to make that up, are we utilizing some of that money? Okay, so if every year we have to utilize $600,000 of that money, at what point do we run into trouble, or do you have a game plan to where we don't run into trouble? Because I think that's kind of where we are in the city right now. We kept using our reserve funds, using, and that's where we are now. We're in trouble. So do you have an answer for that, please?
Yes, sir, and thank you. Thank you for the compliment as well. Director Lomax has impressed upon the importance of this very issue with the Nashville Farmers Market as we're looking at our fiscal operations. So I'm going to try to answer each one of the questions that you asked. Yes, when the state amended the lease for the Nashville Farmers Market and essentially reclaimed a portion of our property, which was a little over 4 acres, for the construction of the Tennessee State Museum and a surface area parking lot, there was an exchange of approximately $4 million that was set aside in an account for the Nashville Farmers Market, and those funds were approved to be able to be used for operating and capital expenses for the Nashville Farmers Market, which we have been doing. We have been utilizing them primarily for operating expenses. Before we spend them on improvements, we want to make sure that we have our operating expenses covered. The board charged the staff at that time with coming up with a new revenue model, since we had lost 2 sheds and parking associated with the facility, to come up with a new revenue model that would bridge that gap and over time position us for financial sustainability, not requiring us to use any fund balance or subsidy from Metro government. We are implementing that plan. It was the major chunk of that plan was to change our rate structure for our market house restaurants and shops. We spend a little over $1 million operating the market house portion of the Nashville Farmers Market. When we look at what it cost us to run that facility and secure it and clean it, keep the lights on. But we were only bringing in around $500,000 in revenue from its tenants. So we did a very significant assessment. We shared all of those details with you guys before we implemented it, and we shared it with our merchant community and the community at large as well. What we're doing now is we're in a step-in phase of increasing the square footage rate for each tenant. Happy to say that all of the tenants have re-signed leases. All of the tenants at this point have had to go through a renewal process. We haven't lost anybody. It hasn't created a financial burden on any of our small businesses that enabled them to operate at the market. And so we're well on our way to being able to bring in more revenue. That will be a gradual increase over a 3 to 4 year period that will eventually close that gap that you're seeing in our budget right now. In addition, we'll continue to work with bringing those large-scale events like New Year's Eve, where we make a significant amount of revenue off of that particular event that happens in our city. So we're looking at other opportunities for those types of events to be able to increase our revenue. What we don't want to do is we don't feel it's necessary to increase the financial burden on the small farms or artisan makers that are just establishing themselves. We've compared our rate structure with the other farmers markets across the country as well as in our community. We want to remain competitive with the price per day for them to retail there. And right now it's very low. On any given Saturday, it costs you $50 for a 10 by 20 booth at the Nashville Farmers Market. And during the week, any other day, it's $30 a day. So if you're looking to start a small business or operate a retail for your farm, we're a great, affordable place for you to be able to do that. And we think that's important for us to maintain that while we're trying to bridge that gap.
Okay.
Lastly, I'll just say we're looking at grants. You always tell us to look at grants, so we're looking at grants, and our Friends of the Nashville Farmers Market group is bringing funding opportunities to us through them that you'll continue to see pass through. You recently allowed us to accept $10,000 from them, which we appreciate.
Okay. So, again, because time just kind of melts when you're down here. Of the $4 million we set aside for the allocations for you guys to basically get on your feet, become self-sustaining, et cetera, how much money? Because I'm assuming there's roughly $6 million out of this year. So one would say, okay, there's $3.4 million. But I don't remember how much was used last year out of it. What's the balance look like on that when we complete this next fiscal year? Do you have an idea of what that looks like? And if you don't, you can let us know.
I'll send out a balance report on that, but we should be somewhere right around $2 to $2.3 million in available balance after the conclusion of this year.
Okay.
But
All right.
I'll send out a balance report.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Is there any other council members seeking recognition? Councilman Cooper at large.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Very quickly, Tasha. The museum is not going to open until the next fiscal year. Okay.
October
of 19.
October 18.
October, so this year. So when you come back to us next year, it may significantly boost your vendor's business.
I believe that it will. What they're
Okay.
projecting in their first year of visitorship to the museum is triple what they normally see in their current location. And I think with all the activity that will be utilized from the CVC and other promotional opportunities to bring people into Nashville to visit that museum during the first year.
So if there was more parking, you could definitely probably forecast that your vendors would be doing better. But there's no, and then you just have to patiently renegotiate the leases with the vendors as they do better to increase your rates. And what's the average term of our vendor lease?
Our term is 5 years, and there's a graduated increase each year of that term that's already negotiated. So their first year, it's $13 a square foot, and then it's $15, $17, and it escalates $2 a square foot each year.
So how soon would it be before you would get up to a $2 million revenue level or something on this order, basically to break even where you don't have to dip into your fund? Is that like in 3 years if everybody?
We're projecting at this point with what we're dealing with right now somewhere around 2020 or 2021.
So you might get through the fund. Close. It'll be a close run thing. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cooper. Councilor Gilmore.
Hi, Tasha. Thank you for your leadership. Actually, I was going to ask you about that. I know some years ago, myself and Council Lady Hurt went to the state for you to get that parking so we could get it reconfigured and bring some more. So I just wanted to ask you, how is that going, and what can we do in the way of acquiring more parking? And for those people that don't know, we changed it up a little bit. Instead of having parallel, we put in a different direction so that the farmers market could realize more money. So if you could just speak to that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And yes, we appreciate everything that you and other council members did to help us acquire new parking solutions for the Nashville Farmers Market. About a year and a half ago, what we did was we negotiated with the state, who operates 6th and 7th Avenue, to make those streets one way and to change the parallel parking to a 45-degree angled parking. It doubled the parking capacity on the streets. It also greatly reduced or it calmed the traffic. Let's just say that. It didn't reduce the traffic, but it calmed it and helped the traffic flow be more manageable. In addition to that, we were able to utilize those same conversations and that same collaborative spirit to negotiate a satellite parking lot, which is the MTA charging station lot. We have that for our vendors to park in. We have permits for our vendors to park in along 6th Avenue in that on-street parking. And then as the museum opens and that shared lot of about 150 to 155 spaces becomes available, we'll be renegotiating with the state on our access to that lot. So we may call upon you again for your assistance in that area to make sure that the farmers market and its merchants are represented fairly. That will be coming up within the next 3 to 6 months. We've actually requested that meeting for that discussion to take place.
Thank you so much. Councilman Glover, are you seeking additional recognition?
Just very quickly, the 13 and then it escalates $2 a year. Is that a triple net or is that a gross price? So in utilities, everything's included in the square footage, or are they responsible for their own taxes? I mean, well, obviously sales tax they are, but is that a gross amount they pay? And that includes utilities and whatnot?
So we utilize a formula that is based off of the type of their concept and their utility load. And we have a factor that we base in. This system was put in by General Services many years ago. So they've got $13 a square foot multiplied by their square foot, multiplied by their BOMA factor, and that equals what their annual would be. I'd be happy to send you.
So but it does include all costs. So the $13 a foot is net. I mean, so if they sit down and say, look, I got 1,000 square feet, it's $13,000 a year divided by 12, boom, this is how much I'm paying in rent a year. And I don't have to worry about anything else.
So it's the $13 a square foot plus their factored utility based.
Okay, I misunderstood you. Okay, all right, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no other council members seeking recognition, thank you, Kennard, and your staff. And I see you have I see Kay back there in the back. Thank you so much for the service that you do to the city. This concludes your budget hearing.
Thank you.
If ITS and Metro 3 can begin making your way down, and we will continue.